In December, while feeding her 9-month-old daughter Tian, Patricia Scudds noticed tiny slivers of glass in the child's food. The baby was rushed to hospital but released soon after. Today, Tian seems unaware of her ordeal. But for her mother, the last 6 weeks have been frustrating and annoying. Patricia Scudds now says she wants some answers.
I've just had no answers, no phone calls, nothing off anyone, and I'm really starting to get cranky about it. I think by now there should be some sort of answers.
The Department of Health took the tin of Heinz baby food on December 18th, but despite extensive laboratory tests, say they've come up with nothing. The Director of Technical Services at Heinz said today his company had thoroughly investigated the production line, pulling it completely to pieces. They too have found no answers, and a police investigation into the find has come to a standstill. Patricia Scudds says in the interests of all parents, some explanation must be found.
Well, if you had a child and your child was eating glass, would you ask for questions? Would you want decent answers? I'm pretty sure I do.
Mayors, presidents and town clerks from 14 hunter councils met today, pooling resources to help Newcastle rebuild after the quake. Following the discussion, the councils agreed to lease Newcastle City some part-time workers.
We believe that they'll need between 6 and 8 health and building department and 3 and 4 planners to assist them throughout the next probably 12 months to 2 years.
With the city rebuilding program underway, health and building inspectors are in great demand. While it had been expected recruits would come from outside the area, a statewide shortage of inspectors means the council would have to pay high wages to attract them.
Instead of us simply going out and advertising for 2-year contracts, which would undoubtedly inflate the price, it's better to do it this way by secondment and cooperation if it can be done, and we think it can.
Church and community leaders attended the service which officially launched Newcastle's Australia Day celebrations. The 14th Field Squadron of the Royal Australian Engineers presented the flag. The Australian Army Band led the gathering in the national anthem. A ceremony at City Hall was forced indoors by grey skies and the threat of rain. Newcastle's Order of Australia recipient Alec Young gave the address. He was followed by Catherine Graham, who, accompanied by the Waratah Girls Choir and the Royal Australian Navy Band, gave a stirring rendition of Australia Be Proud. The nationalistic tone continued when Kathy Marnie recited My Country. Like Dorothea McKellar, 19-year-old Kathy is blind.
I love her far horizons. I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror, the wide brown land for me.
The ceremony ended with the raising of the flag and the national anthem. From there, celebrations took on a more relaxed note at the foreshore. A birthday wouldn't be one without a cake. The Lions Club of Newcastle and Lambton Meals and Wheels provided a whopping 105-kilogram cake in the shape of Australia. Although the Australia Day Council had organised plenty of activities on the foreshore, rain kept most would-be partygoers indoors. It was hoped that the sunset picnic and concert would be the biggest ever seen on the foreshore. However, rain again forced activities inside and few turned up to join in the celebrations. A similar picnic organised for Lake Macquarie attracted a small but enthusiastic crowd. A kilometre-long procession wound its way from the council chambers to Spears Point Park, where 85 new Australians were naturalised. Last year, Kathy Measulanzik and a handful of other students were forced to make a round trip to Sydney each weekend to pursue one of many foreign languages included in the higher school certificate but not on the course list at Hunter schools. Many students were unable to cope with the travelling, and this led them to drop out of their foreign language courses shortly after beginning. Local officials for the Ethnic Community Council had lobbied for the establishment of community language classes in the Hunter, even conducting a survey and passing the results on to Education Minister Terry Metherell. And finally, Mr Metherell has made the announcement they've been waiting for. A new centre of the Saturday School of Community Languages is to be established at Merriweather High School. The school will be open for enrolments on February 10 and will offer tuition to government and private school students unable to study their chosen language at their school. The languages covered will be Chinese, Croatian, Italian, Japanese, Macedonian, Modern Greek, Polish, Russian, Serbian, Spanish and Vietnamese. The letter was yet another sign for the earthquake-ravaged city that its plight has not gone unrecognised. Pop star Michael Jackson had earlier attempted to give his time to a special concert to aid the city. Commitments unfortunately put an end to that. But today, Jackson was quick to join with his friend Brett Livingston Strong in sending his condolences to families who'd lost loved ones. A portrait of Jackson, painted by Strong, recently sold for $2.1 million, making it the most expensive contemporary portrait of a living person. It's earned Strong worldwide acclaim, and it was through a network of friends in Newcastle that he became involved in the city's plight and agreed to become a living treasure and a favourite son of the city, announced today during the Australia Day celebrations.
Visiting golfer Kemp Richardson from the United States made a mockery of the Belmont layout, blasting an incredible round of 63, 9 under par, to break the existing course record by a shot. Richardson's round included 9 pars and 9 birdies, an amazing feat because he only arrived in Australia 24 hours before teeing off. Richardson leads the Lake Macquarie amateur field by 5 shots, with Peter Zidow from Queensland next with a 68. On 69 are Gary Barber and the current Australian amateur champion Steve Conran, with Stuart Bouvier and Ricky Willison from the UK a further shot back. Play continues tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, rain forced organisers of the Newcastle Open Tennis Championships to reschedule the first day's play, but the sunshine arrived and the tournament is back on track. The locals performed well, with Richard Nichols, Willie O'Neill and Peter Doohan winning through to the round 2 of the Open men's singles, with the only real casualty the number 4 seed Justin Reeses from Manly, who withdrew mid-match with a knee strain. Lee Kessel of Newcastle has won her opening match of the women's singles. Play will continue tonight and resume early tomorrow morning.
Fire brigades were called to this house on Wednesday evening. It was the second time they'd put out a fire here in a fortnight. The house has 2 occupants who remained there despite extensive fire damage and the lack of electric power. Mental health workers have asked us not to name them or their street to protect their right to privacy, but that right is denied their neighbours. According to residents on the street, the occupants of number 4 walk into their homes whenever they like. On one occasion, the male occupant is alleged to have kicked open a door. Neighbour Vladislava Misjetsin speaks little English. She's terrified of the couple, who she says enter while she's alone, sometimes demanding money for cigarettes.
They coming, they say, you're giving me, you must giving me, but I not have smoke, I must smoke. One day they coming, they ask me money. Give me money, but I not have money for smoke.
Are you afraid of them?
I'm afraid. Oh, I scared these people, I so scared.
Other neighbours report having their garbage bins rifled, as well as more bizarre forms of behaviour. However, they all say this week's fire is the last straw.
It's apparent now that they can't look after themselves. This is the second fire that they've had in the place over there. They've burnt the front part of the house out and they moved out to the back. They've got no power or electricity or anything on there, so I don't know how they're living in there.
Further along the street, Irene Viles said she used her pension cheque to buy a security door to gain some privacy.
Before I got this Boar's door on, he walked in one day, just walked in and sat at the table. He couldn't talk coherently. I couldn't understand a word.
There doesn't appear to be a resident of this street who doesn't have a story about finding an unwelcome visitor either in their house or their yard at any time of the day or night. Most people were understanding at first, but as the years went by, desperation increased to such a point that they are now considering a petition to have these people removed. The Mental Health Service says the house is owned by the occupants and it hasn't the necessary authority to infringe on their basic rights. They advise the neighbours to call the police if there are further problems. But even the neighbours feel that the law should be the last resort. In the meantime, the residents in question will continue to live as they are, somewhere on that fine line between their rights and the rights of others.
At District Park today, the Newcastle Open Tennis Championships continued with mixed success for the locals. The men's #1 seed Peter Doohan won his quarter-final in easy fashion, defeating Paul Graziani 6-love, 6-3. He will now meet fellow Novocastrian Brian Williams in the semi. Williams thrashed Cameron Liggett 6-2, 6-2. But two locals fell by the wayside. Willie O'Neill went down to Sweden's Stefan Heckmans 7-5, 6-1, and Richard Nichols lost a fiery encounter with Neil Smith from Manly 7-6, 6-2. In the ladies' singles, Lee Kessler and Emily Fisher are the two Newcastle girls who have progressed to the semi-finals. The ladies' final is at 1 p.m. tomorrow. At the Belmont Golf Course, overnight leader Kemp Richardson from the United States maintained his 5-shot lead in the Gordon Pacific Lake Macquarie Amateur Championships. Richardson shot a 1/73 today to go with yesterday's record-shattering 63. The veteran of many Lake Macquarie events, the affable Richardson will be hard to peg back over the concluding rounds tomorrow. The big mover was New Zealander Philip Tatarani, who went to 3 under the card with some solid golf. A further shot back at 2 under par is Peter Zidow from Queensland, and a further shot back is Gary Barber from Liverpool, Ricky Willison from London in the UK, and Steve Conran from New South Wales, who was the current Australian amateur champion. Of the locals, Wayne Stewart from Toronto is also at 1 under par and could threaten this field if he begins well tomorrow.
Unions became aware that up to 245 jobs could be lost when an internal corporate strategy document was leaked. It's a 3-year plan which would see the old MSB cease hiring out labour to coal loaders and other waterfront facilities. The Port Authority said today there'll not be wholesale retrenchments as the jobs will still have to be done, but General Manager Jeff Connell did concede that some jobs will go. The authority will also be looking at selling machinery and other services which could be operated more efficiently by private enterprise. But it says it does not intend selling any waterfront land. Delegates of 13 unions likely to be affected want more details.
I think we have to take account that it was a draft corporate strategy which the board was considering. I would have thought that after those considerations there would have been discussions. Unfortunately it is out. People know about it or think they know about it. Obviously there is some substance to the rumours and we'd like to be involved in discussions to find out exactly what they are.
The York and North Wings have been at the centre of controversy since the earthquake. Several weeks ago, Premier Greiner stopped demolition of the wings until further structural assessment had been made. That recommendation by the Department of Planning is expected within 2 weeks. Until then, emergency repairs are being carried out to ensure the safety of the 48 employees still working in the laundry.
The Area Health Service has a responsibility to those people and we will proceed with making that safe.
According to one report, it will take 15 months and $27 million to repair the ageing buildings to an acceptable standard. In that time, the new John Hunter Hospital at Rankin Park, which was built to relieve the patient overload and crumbling buildings at the Royal, will be up and running.
There's no chance of using, for health purposes, the Northern York wings again. They are irreparably damaged and $27 million short of current standards of refurbishment.
The state government is looking at a number of options, the first being demolition, or one or both buildings could be repaired and used for a purpose other than health. Already the ideas are coming in.
And that was to make the North Wing into a mixed convention restaurant sort of place and have a spa and gymnasium on the ground floor to meet the needs of the hospital staff as well as some of the community. And it was a good thing.
Any potential developer, however, has an enormous cost to consider.
And it might be that any potential developer might be a bit put off if he has a $5 million bill to restore a heritage building to incorporate it in already a $15 million development.
In days gone by, speedway racing at showgrounds around Australia was one of the nation's most popular pastimes, with tens of thousands of spectators turning out on a weekly basis to watch the death-defying deeds of the two-wheeled devils. But council ordinances saw the end of showground racing, and it's only in the last couple of years that there has been a relaxation of the rules. So after nearly 40 years' absence, the Newcastle Showground will come alive in a big way Saturday afternoon, with the first of 17 events beginning at 4 o'clock. For event organiser and former Australian champion Keith Davies, it's a dream come true to see things taking shape for the weekend, but with certain modifications to please everyone.
Yes, we're running a car muffler on the bikes now. A lot of people aren't happy with this, but unfortunately if our sport's got to keep going, well, we've got to go with these ways.
18 international riders, some of the best riders in the world.
Yes, we've got 18 I would consider the best field actually in Australia. We've got Simon Wigg, who's the current world long track champion. We've got Kelvin Tatum, who is the current English captain and Intercontinental final winner. Kelly Moran from America, who's a real showman and one of the top riders in America at the moment. Plus all of our local or our Australian riders.
Australian representative Mick Poole, who will be one of the hotshots on Saturday night's 31 event program. The track of 530 metres is a beauty.
It seems pretty big and pretty fast, and there's a lot of dirt on the track, so it's going to be like fairly grippy, and you know, it's going to be a pretty good racing, I think. So you're expecting very quick times?
Yeah, it's a very, very fast track. I've ridden on some big tracks before. This is fairly big, and like I said, it's going to have a lot of grip on it, so it's going to be pretty fast.
Beaumont Street minutes after the earthquake struck, a scene of shocking devastation. Today, just over a month later, the street remains closed to all but the authorities, workmen, traders and an occasional customer. Locals stand by the barriers, idly watching the progress of the massive clean-up job. Security guards man the intersections, stopping all but those authorised from entering the huge construction zone. Newcastle Council is anxious to prevent a recurrence of the debacle 2.5 weeks ago, when heavy machinery and workmen delicately dodged the hundreds of sightseers who flocked to Beaumont Street upon hearing of its reopening. That decision hastily reversed, Council has since been more cautious, but as the weeks creep by, some traders are becoming edgy, frustrated by what they see as overzealous authorities.
So nobody knows. You talk with the health department, they say to you open. You talk with the police, they say to you we don't know nothing. You ring somebody else, we don't know nothing. Somebody have to come here to inspect the building.
They come first day here, they said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. What they don't do? What are we waiting? Waiting miracles again? Or waiting another earthquake? You understand what I mean? I got nothing else to say. I'm up to here, you know, I'm up to here, I'm going, you know. Oh, that's it.
Since opening his barber's shop yesterday, Mustafa Ismail has had one customer. As businesses like this struggle to stay afloat, tension is mounting.
Angry? More than angry. I like to grab somebody and squeeze their neck, but I can't do this because otherwise I'm going to jail too.
Late this afternoon, news of a so-called cautious reopening was announced. The section from Donald Street to Maitland Road, including the railway gates, will open around lunchtime, with other sectors opened progressively over the next 2 days. Council plans to erect hoardings around at least 12 buildings that continue to threaten public safety. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
The development would mean a big boost to the region, the state and the nation, with an extra 200 direct jobs at least, more through higher demand for electricity, and greater export earnings from the 300,000 tonnes of aluminium sold to Asia each year. Motivating Tomago Aluminium to look at the viability of expansion is a deal to tie the electricity cost to international metal prices. But at all times, Elcom would make money. Mr Greiner would not reveal details, but said the state will not be subsidising Tomago Aluminium. On the sensitive issue of the environment, the Premier brushed aside concern in some quarters about pollution both during production and from stored waste. A decision on a third potline at Tomago is expected by December. It would cost $500 million and see 1,000 jobs created during the 2.5-year construction period. Today, a repair team was at work rolling down the bitumen bubbles and completely replacing sections of the top layer of tarmac where cracking had occurred. The entire 2.5 kilometres and full 50-metre width is affected to varying degrees.
Water is lifting the top 35 mil of the runway away from the original runway, and we're attempting to roll those areas down to make the runway serviceable. Areas that are breaking up that could cause FOD damage or cause problems, of course, we have to cut out and refill.
While all operations have been stopped, no aircraft is stranded. 2 commuter planes used a taxiway to escape after the trouble was noticed on Sunday. 10 FA-18s have gone to New Zealand on an exercise, and 6 Mackie trainers are temporarily based at Nowra. Wing Commander Ross Kelly was easily able to demonstrate the problem, squeezing water from the bitumen with his own weight. But it may be that the tarmac has run its course anyway.
This type of overlay has a lifespan of between 10 and 15 years, and in fact we had planned to redo the overlay at the end of this year. So we're hoping that the patching will work and keep us in business until then.